My daughter wanted to skip a family obligation one time. I was surprised because she always wanted to attend a party. I was generally curious why she'd stay home, but didn't want to escalate, so I asked, "What's going on? You always want to go." She looked at me, blinked. "I don't know." I tried again. "Is it something about the people there? Something that happened?" She stared back at her phone. "I don't know." I tried one more time. "Is there anything else you'd rather do instead?" She looked up frustrated. "Just leave me alone." And there it was. Not defiance, not disrespect. She didn't have the words. I remember thinking, what's actually the matter? I did my part. Still, it didn't work well. Later, I understood. The four negotiation moves work, but they only work if the other party can meet you halfway. And most teens can't. Not yet. Because nobody taught them yet. Last week, I ended with a line I want to pick up now. I said, "Your teen has the leverage." Today, I say, "They don't have the words yet." That's on us to fix. Let's do that now. But first, let me be clear about what this episode is and isn't. This is not about teaching your teen to argue better. It's not about handing them tools to win fights against you. If that's what you're worried about, I get it. But okay, it's a fair instinct. But here's the reframe: a teen who can express what they want, explain why, and hear your side without exploding is not a teen who wins more arguments. It's a teen who has fewer arguments, anywhere, anytime. Because most arguments aren't caused by disagreement, they are caused by two people who can't say what they actually mean, and so they say something louder instead. Giving your teen negotiation skills doesn't arm them against you, it arms them for the conversation, which is where you want them. So, teens have leverage, the natural leverage of being bigger, smarter, and more independent every year. What they don't have is the language to convert that leverage into agreement instead of conflict. Leverage without language looks like this: your teen wants something intensely, can't explain it coherently, and what comes out instead is silence, shrugs, slam doors, or explosions over small things. None of that is attitude. It's what happens when someone has a strong internal experience and no words for it. We all do this. Teens just do it more visibly with less ability to recover quickly. Your teen is not broken. They are inarticulate in a way all humans are inarticulate when the stakes are high and the vocabulary is missing. Your job, and it's a quiet job, not a teaching job, is to help the vocabulary appear. Well, how, you'll ask? When they were small, we did most of the emotional and verbal work for them, and we didn't even realize it. For example, "Are you upset right now? I think you might be upset." Or, "It sounds like you want more time to play before dinner. Is that right?" Or, "I think that you are trying to say blah, blah, blah." This was right for a 5-year-old. It's how young children build emotional vocabulary through adults scaffolding the words until the child can reach them alone. But somewhere around 11 or 12, most parents stop doing this. We assume the vocabulary is there now. It isn't, at least not the vocabulary that matters here. The specific, vulnerable language you need to get something you want from someone who has power over you without losing face. Most adults don't have it clearly either. The mistake is pulling back the scaffolding because they are big. Big and unequipped is actually harder than small and unequipped. The stakes are higher and the explosions are louder. Let me give you 5 specific things most teens generally cannot say yet. For each one, I'll tell you what comes out of their mouth instead and what's actually underneath. Understanding these 5 is the whole episode, honestly. 1. I feel disrespected and that makes it impossible for me to hear you. What comes out instead is, you always talk to me like that, or silence, or an eye roll that escalates the whole thing. What's underneath all that? The teen felt the tone before they heard the content. The way you said, impatient, dismissive, sharp, landed before the actual words did. They are responding to the tone, not the request. But they don't have the sentence yes. Your tone shut me down. 2. I need you to hear me before you respond, because if you respond first, I'll shut down. What comes out instead is, you never listen, or they start talking and just stop mid sentence. What's underneath? The teen has learned that the moment they open something, your response is already forming on your face. They can see it. So they run out of steam mid sentence. And then you are in a fight about you never finish a sentence and you never listen instead of the actual thing. 3. I'm not saying no to you. I'm saying no to the task, and they are different things. What comes out instead is flat refusal. No, I don't want to, with no context. What's underneath this? They don't have the vocabulary to separate the relationship from the request. So the refusal sounds total when it's actually partial, and we take it personally and flip out. 4. I'm scared to tell you what I actually want because I don't know how you'll react. What comes out instead? Nothing. Or they ask for someone else, a sibling, the other parent, or they hint sideways for weeks. What's underneath? They've done a risk assessment. The cost of asking directly, potential rejection, conflict, lecture, feels higher than the cost of staying stuck. So they stay stuck. And you think they don't know what they want, when actually they know exactly and have decided it's not safe to say. 5. I made a mistake and I'm ashamed, and I don't need you to make this worse by how you react. What comes out instead? Denial, deflection, minimizing. It wasn't that bad, or silence, or lying. What's underneath? They need to tell you something and they are terrified. Not because you've been a bad parent, but because the shame is already loud enough. And adding your disappointment or anger on top feels unbearable in this moment. We'll do a full episode on this one, the hidden truth, the broken amnesty, all of it. For today, know this. When your teen lies or deflects about a mistake, they are often not being malicious. They are a teenager with unmanageable shame and no language for asking you to be gentle. Before we get to the how, I want to give you one specific tool for that. For that last thing, the confession they can't bring to themselves to say it out loud. It's simple. Tell them the written way is always there. A note slipped under your door, a text, a message in the family app, even a drawing. Anything written counts, and you will treat it with the same seriousness as if they'd said it to your face. More, actually, because they chose honesty over hiding. That's why written confession works for teens specifically. Writing slows the shames. It gives them processing time. It removes the face-to-face terror. It gives you time to regulate yourself before responding. This is the hidden gift, and parents rarely see it this way. When your teen texts you, I need to tell you something, I messed up, instead of saying it to your face, you have the drive home to process, regulate, and decide how you want to respond. You are not forced to react in real time. That's actually better for the relationship, not worse. And here's the critical part. When the note arrives, your response in the next 10 minutes determines whether the written door stays open or closes forever. If you respond with, "Why are you texting me this? Come and say it to my face," you've just punished the honesty. The door closes. If you respond with, "Thank you for telling me, give me a few minutes and then let's talk," you've built something durable. The door stays open for the next hard thing and then the one after that. The written door isn't a workaround, it's a bridge. And sometimes a bridge is the only way across. Okay, so how you help without making it a lesson? You cannot teach this in a classroom moment. You cannot sit your teen down and say, today we are going to work on your communication skills. The shutters will come down before you finish the sentence. What they receive, whether they know it or not, is modeling, environment, and the occasional perfectly timed scaffold. 4 ways to do that, plus a game changer. 1. Speak the language yourself, out loud, in front of them, not as a demonstration, just as your natural way of talking. Just your talking, okay? I felt dismissed when that happened, and I needed a minute before I could respond well. It's one example. I want to hear your side before I say anything. Can you walk me through it? Or I'm not reacting to the request. I'm reacting to how it was made. Let me try that again. Your teen is listening, even when they look like they're not. They are filing vocabulary. Every time you speak this language naturally in real situations, you add to that library. This is the slowest method, but it's also the one that works forever. 2. Ask questions that give them the vocabulary. When your teen goes quiet or explodes, instead of responding to the surface, ask a question that points toward the real thing underneath. What we discussed before, okay? Not why are you upset? Because they don't know. Try instead. Did something about what I said that landed badly? Not what is your problem, but is it the task itself or the timing or something else? Not why won't you just tell me what's wrong? But you don't have to have it fully figured out to say something. Even half of it is fine. These questions give the teen a smaller target to hit. Instead of explain your emotional state in full, which is impossible, you are asking, is it A or is it B? It's more manageable. Over months of these questions, your teen starts to internalize the categories and bring that awareness into the conversation themselves. One small but important distinction. Ask about facts, not feelings. Did something happen at school? Is a door. Are you upset because I said no? Is a guess they didn't ask you to make. Even when you're right, and or especially when you are right, naming their feelings for them tends to make them close off rather than open up. Ask about the situation. Let them name the feeling. 3. Name it when it happens, once and quietly. When you can tell that what's coming out of their mouth is the frustration cover story, not the real thing, name it once, quietly, without making a thing of it. For example, I don't think that's really what this is about. Take your time. Or, I can hear this is hard to say. I'm not going anywhere. Or, you don't have to have the right words now. Just start somewhere. Then stop. Don't add to it. Create a space and let them decide whether to step into it. Sometimes they will. Often they won't. Not right then. They might come back an hour later or a day later, having found the sentence they needed. And that counts. That's a win. 4. Use what and how instead of why. Why is almost always the wrong question with teens. Not because it's bad, but because why demands that the teen have conscious access to their own motivations, which they don't. What and how questions are about actions and outcomes and easier to answer. Why did you do that? The famous question. Demands justification, puts them on trial. Ask this. How would you handle this differently next time? Puts them in the driver's seat. Can you see the difference? Why don't you want to go? Ask them to explain their interior. What I did back then, right? No, ask this. What would make this work for you? Ask them to problem solve. Okay? Now the game changer. The game changer is the 3-way proposal. This one is the most practical tool in the whole episode and is the one that changes the dynamic fastest. When your teen wants something, a later curfew, less homework, less supervision, a weekend plan you haven't agreed to, teach them to bring it to you as a proposal, not a demand. And the proposal has to have three parts: their ideal, what they actually want in a perfect world, no filtering, no softening, the real ask. Two, the status quo, the current rule or limit, named honestly, not with resentment, just what exists right now. And three, the middle ground, what they could live with, something that moves them toward their ideal without asking you to abandon the current rule entirely. The magic is in the third part, because finding the middle ground forces your teen to do the problem solving work before the conversation. They arrive at the table having already thought about the compromise, which means you are not negotiating against resistance. You are discussing a proposal. For example, your teen wants to play games until midnight on weekends. Current rule, it's 10 p.m. Instead of all my friends play until midnight, why can't I? Which is a complaint. You teach them to bring. I want midnight. The rule is 10 p.m. What I propose is 11 p.m. on Fridays and Saturdays and 10 p.m. stays on Sundays. That proposal is hard to say no to. Not because you've surrendered, but because the teen has done the work of respecting your concern while advocating for themselves. And here's the rule that makes this stick: be willing to wait for the proposal format. If they bring a flat demand, I want to stay out until midnight, don't engage with the content. Just say, I hear you want something different. Come back to me when you have a proposal. What you want, what exists now, and what you think the middle looks like. Then we'll talk. And this is not harsh, it's not dismissive. It's teaching them that the format of the ask determines whether the conversation can happen. A complaint closes the door, a proposal opens it. And what you're teaching them is how to advocate for themselves in every room they'll ever be in. A person who comes to any table with a prepared middle ground proposal, it's taken seriously. This skill will serve them for the rest of their lives. Now, we talked in the previous episode about the 3-second pause for parents. Teens need the exact same thing, and they are worse at it because their prefrontal cortex, the part of the brain that manages impulse control, isn't fully developed until their mid-20s. And this is not an excuse, it's biology. They are working with less hardware than us, which means the pause is even more important for them and even harder to do. 3 things help teens find the pause, and they are similar to ours. A physical anchor. Count to 3, both feet flat on the floor, hands open, not fisted. One slow breath out. A code phrase, theirs, not yours. Work out together in a calm moment one phrase that means I need a minute before I respond. Anything works. Give me a second. Not yet. Even just wait. Pre-agreed, so they use it in a hard conversation and you will know to stop and they know they have the space. No explanation needed, no permission needed. Practice in low stakes moments. Same as you. You cannot teach the pause by demanding it in a fight. Build it in the small frustrations. Every time they find the pause in a minor moment, they are building the muscle for the big one. One important thing there. When your teen uses the pause, don't fill in the silence. Their pause is an invitation for you to pause too. The pause only works if both sides go quiet. Let me give you an example of when this shifted. When my daughter found a sentence she didn't have because she paused and I paused. So she comes home from school one day, pretty silent, low tone, short sentences. I felt it immediately, but kept quiet. Finally, she comes to dinner. Before she sits, she goes, something happened today and I think I made a mistake. And she saw me inhaling and opening my mouth to respond. And she stopped at me at once. Wait, I know how to fix it. Hear me out. I exhaled and waited. She took a moment and then she began explaining the context, the mistake, and her proposal to fix it. I listened quietly. It wasn't a catastrophe and her solution wasn't perfect. But honestly, none of that mattered to me as much as how she delivered it. I felt so proud for her. So, if you zoom out on everything we've talked about today, there's one thing that rules all of it. Being patient with their inarticulate moments is the whole game. Every time you accept the I don't know instead of feeling it, every time you ask the smaller question instead of demanding the full explanation, you are slowly building a teenager who can eventually say, I felt dismissed and I needed a minute. I'm not saying no to you, I'm saying no to this. I need to tell you something, and I'm scared of how you react. Those sentences don't arrive fully formed. They arrive in pieces, over years, glued from a thousand small moments, moments where the space was there and someone was patient enough to hold it together. It won't feel like progress most days. Most days, it will feel like two people who can't quite reach each other. But that's fine. That's what it looks like from the inside. But keep going. Before I let you go, two takeaways. Everything we talked about today comes down to this. One, ask what and how, not why. And two, teach them to bring a proposal, not a complaint. If you like some ready made conversation scripts for your teen, for exactly the moments we talked about today, I've made some printables around this. Link in the description if you want them. Next week, we step back from the negotiating table entirely because there's something happening outside our house that's quietly renegotiating everything inside it. Our teens' friends, their social world, their peer culture, applying pressure not just to our kids, but to our entire family. The routines, the traditions, the values, the faith, all of it, quietly, constantly. That's all next week. See you then. Stay strong.